Joe Richardson, CEO of Barti. We're here to talk about what this fall is going to look like. And before we begin, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has supported Barti thus far. And I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to provide some information about what this fall could look like. We know it's going to be very different than years in the past, but we're really looking forward to it. We feel like we're going to be able to help our families and help our children. I can speak from personal experience. My kids have been missing that social emotional connection that school does provide kids, and I think that Barti is really going to be able to provide that in addition to the support for distance learning that we feel the parents are looking for. Before we get into anything, I just want to let you know our commitment is to the safety and minimizing risk as much as possible. I mentioned my two kids. They're going to go to Barti also. We are going to hold ourselves to the highest standards of safety and making sure that everybody who comes into our program is in a safe spot where they can focus on their learning. And we also know that part of that is continuing to educate ourselves and to re-engage and look at best practices based on the information that's out there. And what I'll commit to you is that we're going to continue to do the right thing and looking for the safest possible way to provide care for your family.
Hi everybody, my name is Mark. I'm the Director of Operations with Barti. We know that this fall is going to demand new things of Barti and our staff. Joe and I are here to let you know our staff are eager to get back with you, your family, and your kids. They're excited to get back to work and they're up for this challenge. Joe and I are here for the next few minutes to hopefully share some information, some key changes for our programs that will allow you and your family to make an informed decision for this fall as to whether or not Barti is the right choice to support distance learning for your kids. Joe, let's talk a little bit about what the day's going to look like.
Sure. So we don't know exactly what the day will look like yet, but we're certain that distance learning is going to be a large component of it. Having the children engage with their classes and teachers online through their Chromebooks and meetings, we know that's going to be a big part of it. And we're going to be there to support your children. We're going to make sure they're logged on, that they're attending their classes, that they're paying attention, and that they get all of their work done. We are going to ask that you provide the resources to get online. We know that Montgomery County has been working with families to make sure everyone has Chromebooks and resources so that they can engage in their classes. We'll have some backups also just in case something goes wrong, but we are going to ask that you bring those every day. We're also going to be communicating with you about how things are going with distance learning. We want you to know where your child might be excelling or where they might be struggling, or if they need a little extra help in encouragement on a few areas. But our goal is to have it so you don't have to worry about schoolwork at all. We're going to take that off.
We also know that there's going to be a lot of time at Barti outside of this distance learning. And our goal there is to provide a balance for the kids. Make sure that they're ready to learn when it's learning time and ready to engage in social connection with their friends when we're outside of that learning time. We've got a full summer of experience that's allowed us to practice physical distancing and all the other stuff that we know the kids need to do when engaging in activities with one another. We're going to make sure we're getting some outside time and fresh air whenever we can. We're going to bring our club model back into play to give the kids some choices. And we know that lunch and snack are also going to be a part of the day. Again, when we can get outside to have lunch and snack outside, we know that's the best environment to do so. We also know the weather's not always going to cooperate, so we'll make sure physical distancing is in play whenever we need to eat inside, as kids won't be able to wear their masks during those times.
Yeah, and once we get more information about exactly what the schedule looks like, we'll get that information to you then. Now, we know this year is going to look a little bit different, and we need to make sure we're providing as safe an environment as possible. So we're going to ask a few things. Parents, one of the things we're going to need is a pre-screening form that includes temperatures of your children before they come to Barti for their first day for 14 days prior to that time. When they do come to Barti every day, there will be a temperature check and a parent questionnaire to make sure that they haven't had contact with anybody exhibiting any signs of COVID. Additionally, we're going to be supplementing our normal cleaning procedures, including high-touch areas and any games and equipment that are shared. We've also removed many of our games and items that cannot be adequately cleaned or that children are going to share in an unsafe way to make sure we're providing a safe environment for our kids.
There's also a few key behaviors that we know are important to minimizing the spread. Wearing of masks is going to be essential. All of our school agers are going to be asked to wear a mask if they're able to do so safely whenever we're inside, and outside times as well when physical distancing is not an option. Now, physical distancing is the second thing. We're going to be setting up the rooms and limiting enrollment to ensure physical distancing of our kids and staff. We're also going to maximize outside time. We know that the fresh air helps and that outside is a healthier environment for the kids. And then last is hand washing. It's something we've been preaching since the kids have been infants and toddlers, and we're going to do a whole lot more of it this school year.
And Mark, just in case anybody has any illusions, everyone, including staff, will be wearing a mask whenever they're inside.
Absolutely. So Joe, groups are something that we've been doing at Barty ever since you and I were camp counselors many years ago. It's nothing new, but this summer the idea of cohorts really was something we talked a lot about. It was a recommendation and a guideline from the CDC. The idea behind it's pretty simple, really fixing and locking down those groups. A cohort is a specific group of campers, and that group of campers and their staff do everything together to minimize mixing between them and the rest of the camp. Helps really control any risk of spread among campers and staff.
Yeah, so we need to have really strong cohorts to provide the safest possible place we can for our families and for our staff. So what we've determined is that we're going to have 2 staff paired with 13 children. Every classroom will just be 15 total people, and we're not going to exceed that. That will be the group, but that group needs to stay locked in and not cross over with anybody else, just in case anybody has any COVID symptoms, they wouldn't spread it to a different group. Now, part of this means that we're not going to be able to do our traditional groupings according to grades or genders, because our first priority is going to be minimizing any spread. That means that family units and siblings are going to stay together, in addition to any carpools or anybody you might be traveling with. This is just to minimize the chances that anybody could bring something home or bring it in that could spread to different groups. Now, that might sound a little uncomfortable. What if my kids don't like playing with each other? They've got plenty of time with each other so far through this, and you know what? That's actually something Barty's been really good at for a long time. We have smaller centers that sometimes might only have 20 or 30 children, or our camp groups, or even our clubs that we're using. We're used to coming up with activities that appeal to a wide variety of ages and interests, and I think this is something we're going to be able to do really well.
Yeah, when I spoke to a few of our directors about it, they said, Mark, don't think twice, we've got this. Joe, one of the big changes is going to be the drop-off in the mornings and the pickups in the afternoons. I'm going to start with drop-off in the morning. Parents, we're going to need your help, first with a little bit of patience. It's going to take more time than normal. It's going to all happen outside. One of our staff is going to meet you. We're going to have you check your child's temperature and show that to us. We'll record that temperature. We're also going to talk to you about your child's health. How are they feeling that morning? Have they exhibited any of the symptoms that are consistent with COVID? Have you as a family been in contact with anybody that may be positive for COVID? We'll do all of that outside, and assuming all is good to go, we'll check your child in for you, and then what happens from there?
So from that point, we will have one of our staff members who will escort your child to the class themselves. Unfortunately, we cannot let you in the school building. It's just one of the ways we are continuing to minimize risk. So we will actually escort the child to their class or to their hub so that they can have their school day with us. Now, what happens in the afternoon? Because some parents might come earlier or later, we're going to have a way for you to communicate with our staff. Most likely it's going to be a cell phone number that you can call, and at that point, a staff person will escort your child back out to you and return them to you so you can take them home after a successful day at Barty. Now, one of the things we have to acknowledge is that there is some risk in coming to Barty. We cannot present an entirely risk-free environment, though we're going to do everything in our power to minimize that as much as possible. Now, I'm a parent. My kids are going to go to Barty. It's my responsibility that if my children have a temperature or if they have any symptoms, to keep them home. Because the last thing we want to do is put anybody in jeopardy of the other staff, children, or families that are also using that hub.
Yeah, and it really begins with that. If the kids are sick, we're going to ask if they stay home. We'll do those checks upon arrival, and if we do find that there's a temperature of 100.4 degrees or higher, again, we're going to ask you to take your child to a medical provider and let them determine what's going on and help us make the right decision. That's not our profession. Now, we've got some good news and some help from the Maryland State Department of Education and the Maryland Department of Health. They've really put together some scenarios for us and walked us through what the right thing to do in a child care setting is if there's a presumed or positive case. So if a licensed medical provider has advised parents that there's a presumed case and they're sending the child for testing, then we'll go into a quarantine. So we'll contact all the parents, we'll give you all the information that we have, and we'll ask that you keep your kids home in a quarantine until we either have a negative test, so hopefully it was a false alarm and a negative test, or a 14-day quarantine period has passed and the kids remain symptom-free. If we have a positive case, that's when we'll really work with our local Department of Health. They'll come in, they'll do some contact tracing, but the reality, what we know is we're going to at least begin with a quarantine of those class members or that specific cohort that had direct contact with the sick child.
Yeah, now, and it's also unfortunate we have to make some adjustments to the way we would normally handle situations like this. If we had an extended closure, typically we would give refunds out to people, but we just can't do that in the case of a quarantine for the simple reason that we have to continue paying our staff. It wouldn't be fair to them for them to miss out on wages or their expenses because they have something like that. So we know it's not the best thing that we could do, but in assuming this risk together, we hope you're understanding of that.
All right, Joe, I'm going to let you handle this one. I'm sure most of our parents have known that pricing is different and our choices in care are different. We really just have one program.
Yeah, so let me start with the choices, because usually we are all about choices. We love giving them to people. Unfortunately, in order to maximize the strength of the cohort, we can't offer different plans. We can't have some children coming on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and others on Tuesday and Thursday, because it's just too many people who are crossing and interacting with each other.
Yep.
Now the price, and we know price is a pain point, and childcare is expensive, and we're very sensitive to that. We've tried to be fair, and I hope you'll understand our justifications behind this. One is that we are actually having much longer hours than we normally would. Typically, I think we're about 5.5 hours for full-time care, and we're actually about 9 with this. Additionally, a staff person would usually be with, maybe 12 or 13 children to themselves, and now we have to have 2 staff people in that same group. So the pricing is different. We've tried to keep it fair, but we do understand that it's an expense.
There is help out there. We're going to include some information for some of those resources in the email as well as on our website. And also, please feel free to reach out. Advocates for childcare have been talking with these agencies and making sure that they're aware that there is going to be an added expense for this year. So Joe and I know that you're going to have additional questions and concerns, and our emails are up here on the screen. Please reach out. We're happy to answer your questions and make sure that you have the information you need to make the choice that's right for you and your family.
And thank you to everyone who has supported Barti through this. I cannot tell you how much it means to us, and we're really looking forward to a great fall, and thank you so much for helping us and for watching this video.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day.